Hi everyone, welcome to the Digital Dominator session today, brought to you by Technology Coaching. I'm Suze, I'm going to be your host today. Today's session is titled How to Boost Your Business with Efficient Systems. Today I'm thrilled to have Kay Dewar with us. You can see her here. Say hi, Kay.
Hi.
Kay is an expert in streamlining and automating business systems to help coaches, course creators, and online business owners achieve maximum efficiency without the usual tech headaches. Through our company, CanDoSupport, she has transformed countless businesses by simplifying processes and creating seamless operations. Sounds fantastic. So Kay's unique approach ensures that entrepreneurs can focus on growth and productivity while enjoying more freedom and less stress. So let's dive in and learn how to boost your business with efficient systems. So welcome, Kay. Hi, how are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you as well. So thank you for joining me this morning. I know I shouldn't say this morning, but we are on this morning. And so today's session is all about how to boost your business with efficient systems. But before we get into that, what would be just really great to know is a little bit more about you. What is your background? What's brought you to this place that you're at today? So I'll just get you to do a little bit of introduction about you, your business, and go into background, and then we'll take it from there, Kay.
Yeah, sure. So as Suze mentioned, I am Kay Dewar, and I have been helping businesses to become more productive and efficient for over 20 years, scarily. My background is that I just started as a really curious child and just wondered how things worked and how things joined together and how you could make things more simple, essentially. So that led me into a degree in maths, which was bringing together the logic and the understanding of how things work and how things actually become what they are. And that then fed into a master's in operations management. So ever since graduating, I've went into large corporates to improve operations, to build project teams across organisations, to support teams be more productive and focused on the right things. And then around 7 years ago, I decided it was time for a change, and that's when CanDoSupport was born. And I've been supporting sort of small to medium businesses ever since, bringing in my view of systems and simplicity and helping them really focus on what's actually important rather than all the noise of what they can get led to believe is important when it's not really.
I think that last sentence there was so important. All the things that lead us to think that are keeping us busy, but actually they're the things that are most important. But thank you so much for sharing your background there. I always find it so fascinating to hear everybody's journey into what it is that they're doing now, because I don't think that it's always the same path, or there's always the path that you think that you're going to go on. It never kind of it always navigates into other avenues and opens up other opportunities as you go on in your kind of career-based journey. But I can see why your career journey has got you to where you are today now as well. So let's talk a little bit more about those clients that you're dealing with nowadays. So tell me a little bit more about who your client is and really what are the problems that they're kind of faced with when they come and speak to you, Kay?
So clients, they do vary. It can be online coaches and course creators. I've got a lot of trade businesses that obviously have multiple members in their team, a lot of people off on various sites and a lot of moving parts. So it really applies across the board in terms of the business and their needs. But it's really all aligned around that same principle of bringing them clarity, reducing the overwhelm, and making sure that they are focusing their time effectively, because it can become that that's not the case and they are going down paths that they don't need to be going down. So it's really about bringing them back into that central place that really is the best place for them and their focus.
Interesting. So do you find that people get distracted? What is it that they get distracted on then, really, that that you kind of help them, guide them back into what they really should be focusing on?
It can be a variety of things. It can be the overwhelm can build up because all of the really basic day-to-day things are stored in their head, and then they start second guessing themselves. They start questioning, is that the right thing? Are they focused on the right thing? And it becomes a mess in their mind when it doesn't essentially need to be. Or it can be a case of, we're in a very, very noisy and busy world now. We've got adverts popping at us from everywhere. We've got people telling us about new tools, new systems, and they get bogged down thinking that they need something that actually they don't, and they end up in a bit of a mess because they've got 4 different tools to try and achieve the one outcome, essentially.
Yeah, I see that myself, Kay. It's like when people come to get some support around their technology that they've got set up in their business, it tends to be that somebody's told them something that they think might be right for them maybe at this minute in time, but actually upon the setup process and the actual starting to use the product itself, it's not usually the right thing for them, because somebody's not had that kind of holistic approach to the tools and where they're currently at in their business to where they want to be in their business as well. So how do you really start that conversation then with people? What does that look like when people come to you then as part of that? Okay.
So they want an easier life. They want to take that overwhelm away. They want their minds to be calmer. They want to just enjoy their business a lot more. Essentially, that's where it tends to start. And we then look at, just as you've mentioned, that holistic view. We really drill down into what is your business, what is it you're trying to achieve, and what steps do you need to do in order to achieve that. So when you use the word systems, people tend to automatically go to the tech and think systems are the tech. But a system is essentially the steps that you need to complete to deliver an outcome. And yes, tech will play a part in that, but it's that first level of understanding and knowledge that you need to start with. I had a client just last week and they booked time with me because they thought they needed automation, they needed tech tools in place, but actually before that, they needed a really clear understanding of their customer journey and what the steps involved in that were before they could go and tell the tech what it was that they actually wanted to automate. So it's about really bringing them back into that understanding and knowledge of what are you actually trying to achieve before you rush off and try and ask tech to do it, because I'm sure you're well aware tech is only as good as we tell it to be. So we need that basic knowledge first to make sure that that's then going to do what we want it to do.
Yeah, that's so important, Kate. And I think we're always looking for the new shiny object syndrome. I got that prompt this morning to say, like, don't be distracted by the shiny object. But it's true. It's because there's constant evolution of digital and tech. Like, I'm in that industry. I'm constantly got that shiny object system thing for the new thing that's coming out. However, the implementation of a new tool to get set up in your business, to then find out that it's not going to work in your business, causes not only a time challenge, but a cost, a learning and a development for not only yourself, but for any team members that work. And then what is that experience for that customer in the long run as well? And I think you raised something really clear there when you were talking about what's that beginning steps there, Claire, for Kay, when you start with a customer, and it is really what is that customer journey that you've got. So talk me through a little bit about what that kind of looks like then, if you're chatting through about that kind of first stages with that business to help boost their systems, Kay.
So it's me essentially quizzing them. I'll ask them hundreds of questions, really understand that business in terms of how are they marketing, how are they bringing people in, what does it look like once they're in, how do they receive payment, how do they maintain that relationship, how do they retain customers at the other end. It's really that full end-to-end piece of the business, and anything else that's involved with that. When do they then need to pay for their tech tools to make sure that the business keeps running, or do they have vehicles that they need to think about? When do they need taken care of? It's really that full as we mentioned, holistic picture to make sure every piece of that business is accounted for in the most simple and effective way it can be.
Yeah, it's so important, because trying to run a business as a small business owner, you've basically got all the hats on. You're wearing all of the uniforms for every single role within your business. So I know that from my point of view, we will always talk about automating as much as that process as possible, but you do really need to know what your customer journey is and where they're coming from. Where's that traffic coming from? To then how do you set up that process? And it also depends on the type of business as well. If you're a brick and mortar, or if you're a purely online business, how are people coming to you to then get the support that they need from you as well?
Absolutely.
If I think right back to the start, and if I'm going, okay, I need to think about improving my systems and efficiency, what's a first starting stage for me as a business owner to get started with that?
So it would be, if you can think of a map in front of you, a process map, really detail all the high level points that are involved in your business. So you are marketing to your customer, you are speaking to customers, you are bringing them into your product or service, you are then delivering that product or service. Visualize that map in front of you so that you've got the clarity. The worst thing we can do is keep it in our head. We need that visual ability to see, because then we can obviously pinpoint where we can make changes or make improvements. Then in terms of the next level, it would be really drilling into each of those stages, really going into the nitty gritty of that in terms of creating what I call a second brain, or a digital HQ.
Okay.
And that would go into a tool. My preference is ClickUp. There are a lot of different options out there, obviously, and it's about getting the one that is right for you, because the best tool is one that you are actually going to use.
So what's ClickUp then, Kay?
So ClickUp is a task management tool, essentially, but it can be built in a way that's a large digital database. So you're putting everything related to your business in there, everything that's in your head into this database. So if you can imagine the flow of all the different elements, you then put in the detailed steps below that. So if you're talking about the marketing, for example, you would have a really detailed description for every single element of that. If it's updating blogs on the website, if it's your content calendar for social media, if it's your weekly emails that you send out, it's really drilling into the finest level of detail that you can around that, so that anyone essentially could come in off the street and pick that up and do that for you. You want your business to be foolproof, that essentially it could run without you, is the aim.
That is exactly what the goal is you would want for most businesses, small business owners. So you get to that point of where you can say, actually, it's all running without me. I can go and work on the business and not in the business. And and with the high turnover of staff that a lot of companies are, excuse me, dealing with at the moment, it enables that you're not losing any processes that are maybe being set up by an individual in the business. And that's one of the biggest challenges that corporates have is and you'll know this more than me, Kay, but the turnover of staff, the knowledge of the systems that they've maybe created as their role leaves with them. And there's no place for it to stay. It's maybe been handed down to the next person, but it's maybe not for them to describe how it works, how it was set up, and all of that as well. So I suppose that ClickUp sounds almost like, from a corporate language, like that intranet almost, or like that SOP, those standard operating procedures. Is that kind of a relation to what you were talking about there?
Yeah, so there is a lot of similarities to SharePoint, for example, something like that, but it's taken it to another level by allowing you to build in the automations, the reminders, the chat functionality. It's about bringing everything together into that one place to make your SOPs and your processes and your day-to-day running of the business all linked together and all have that fundamental ability for people to be able to track their way through, regardless of where they are in the business. They know exactly where something is, how to access it, and what it's relating to, and how it ties into all the different tasks or activities that they're working on.
That's brilliant, Kay. So I assume that when you start that journey with you, that you guide the people through that process to be able to set that up on a system like ClickUp as well. But I assume it's not that different than it is with maybe other tools that are out there. But again, it's finding the right tool that's going to work for you in your business, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. The premise of them all is the same. It's about bringing everything together in that one central place and having the ability to know that everything essentially talks to each other. So regardless of what tool you're using, you're still going for that same outcome.
Okay, great. So what are some common signs that a business might need to improve its systems? So what can you recognize from all the people that you've helped over these last 20 years, Kay? What are the things that you recognize as the most frequent things?
So the language is similar. They are feeling overwhelmed. They are feeling that they're not getting enough time to work on the business rather than in the business. They are getting pretty stressed out in a lot of cases because they just feel that burden, that mental load of carrying everything in their head. And it is, you know, us as humans, we get used to the familiar. So you get almost so used to being overwhelmed and stressed and having that mental burden that it becomes difficult to break that cycle. So it is a process in itself to take yourself on that journey and get to the other side where the benefits are.
Okay. There's those feelings that people get around the feeling of overwhelm there that you talked about. And again, as business owners, we all feel that. Is there anything physically that that people might see on their setup of their business that could maybe think about improving? Is there anything that you can see from that side of it?
Yes. So if you find yourself spending too much time in a week looking for that all-important file that you need to send, or looking for that link that you were meant to send to somebody, or too many back and forwards trying to arrange something. It's all those small things that add up. It's not the massively complicated. It is the small basic things that start to become disjointed and start to become your time drains because you thought you knew it so well, but actually it ends up becoming something that is costing you time.
There's so many online spaces where we all store our stuff as well. So I know that I have stuff that I store on my own device, that I store on cloud storage, but I also then use multiple different cloud storages as well. I've got client things based in other kind of storage somewhere. I've got to make sure from a cybersecurity setup to make sure that I'm not accessing the administrator stuff on that same device. There's a lot to think about as a business into where do you actually store your content? Where do you store your information? Then how to get access to it when you need it. When that important message comes through to say, can I buy this from you now? Can you send me more information?
Yeah.
What can you help people with if they've got multiple places and multiple things that they need to try and get access to quickly? What are some quick tips that you can give them, Kay?
I would definitely say get this digital HQ set up. That is the sole purpose of that. It's about pulling. So you imagine starting your day every day. That's the one place that you open. So yes, you've maybe still got all these other cloud storage areas that you need to use, but this one central place will link you directly to that thing that you need. It'll have all of your things categorized in a way that's super easy for you to find. You're not then going into the cloud storage and ending up in 5 different folders that you actually didn't need to be in. It's just taking you.
I'm laughing because I know what that feels like.
Yeah, it's building that HQ as quickly as you can, and it just stops you having that brain fog moment of trying to remember what folder was that in and why did I store it there, and was that actually maybe 2 versions ago, but it's this one I need. It's just cutting all of that out and taking you exactly where you need to be.
And does this HQ, as you call it, can you customize it to make it work specifically for your business, or does it tend to be a specific structure that you would recommend that people would follow to be able to get it set up?
There is, I've obviously been doing it for quite some time now, so I believe my structure is a good way to work it and have that efficiency, but absolutely there are tweaks that other people then bring in that work better for them. I tend to implement it for people, take them through why I've set it up in that way and support them as they become used to it. But yes, they then absolutely can add in their own tweaks to it and their own sort of ways to make it work best for them.
So is that usually your journey that you work with a customer, Kay? So talk me through, what does that customer journey look like for your customer's point of view to get that HQ set up for them?
Yeah, so I would take them through that setup. I would do the initial setup, put as much of their business information in there as I have access to at that point. I would then train them and or their team to make sure that everyone understood the concept of it, why it's set up in that way, how it's linking to the other elements of their business, and really have that embedding in period to make sure that they're fully aware of how to get the best use out of it. And then I find that their way of thinking changes as they get this concept, and all of a sudden they've found other efficiencies that they hadn't even thought about, they hadn't discussed with me, because they're now looking at things in a different way. It just totally changes how people start to view their business and how they can operate.
I love that. I follow the understanding of to think differently. So I love how by implementing a tool, making sure it's set up properly, which is what you're doing with the business, is making sure that it's set up specifically right for that business and guiding them and supporting them through that process. But it's making sure that everyone's on board with that process too. How do you deal with those individuals that are resistant to change, but know that this change is going to make a huge difference? You know, like those people that don't like it.
Yeah.
It happens to us all as we get older. What would you recommend to people that are resistant to that change, that are starting to think about implementing the new change?
So I do have a bit of a sort of unique way of working on that. I also bring in some psychology-based tools to help with that, because it's human nature. It's just what we do. We do look for the familiar, and we do have blocks that prevent us from actually going down a path that's easier for us. So I'll do some understanding and as to why a person feels that resistance, and work with them to try and overcome that, try and change their views to allow them to see and embrace the benefits.
I bet that it's more the team members that would have that resistance rather than the actual business owners or individuals that have come to you directly, because they probably come to you going, "Kay, I need help," right?
Absolutely.
Less
smallest of things. It can be, we're not too keen in working with this because it looks different to my spreadsheet did, or I just don't like the colors, or it's the smallest things, because that's just what us humans do. We just get so used to doing something in a certain way. So yeah, it's can be an interesting journey, but it's really worthwhile once they get to that flip side of it.
Have you got any examples of any clients that you've worked with where you've taken them on that journey from not having any systems in place to then using your HQ to success, and the impact that that's had on them?
Oh, absolutely. I think the most impactful ones are the ones that are probably most resistant to it to start with. They believe what they do is too unique. They can't fit into a structure or a system or a process. They think every piece of work they do is slightly different, but it still applies. The foundations are still there. The need to have all of their information and the tools that they work with to hand still applies. They still need to cut out all of that risk and all of that noise. And once they appreciate that, the outcome at the other side is just amazing. And it just does give them that much more freedom and ability to really do the development and the creativity and the work that they want to do.
Okay, that sounds great. I think what most people would be going at this time is going, how do I even get started with it? How do I even, like, I've got so much to do every single day. Where do I get started with creating systems?
I would say it comes back to the language. Like, stop telling yourself you're too busy. Stop telling yourself you don't have time to look at systems. Stop telling yourself you don't understand tech enough. Like, it's building your systems in this digital HQ is taking account of everything that you're already doing. So it's not that you're creating a brand new business, a brand new process. You're just taking all of the information that you already work with and storing it in a different way is your starting point. So it could be that when you go to create your content next week, note down the process and note down the information as you're doing it into your digital HQ. And there you go, you've got one part of it built. The same again the next time you're onboarding a client, create that step by step within the tool at the same time. So it's not a huge add-on to what you're already doing. It's just building into your day-to-day anyway.
And
sorry.
Is there how much detail do they need to go into when they're writing those things out? Is it like click by click? Is it that amount of detail that they need to go into, or is it just a summary of the process?
It really, the more detail you can put, the better, because you are doing it all. And it may be that you just work yourself just now, and you might think, well, I know how to do it anyway. But there will come a point where you want to outsource that, or you want to hire someone to help you do that, or you just want to go on holiday and you want to know that it's going to be okay for a couple of weeks. It's really essential that everyone does it, regardless of the size of your team. So the more detailed you can do it, the better. But you can, you could do it with a video recording. And obviously when we do video recordings, Loom recordings, etc., you also get the transcript now. So it's essentially creating it for you. So you go to create your content, just hit screen record, and that's it basically created for you. You're just then pulling it into the relevant place once it's done. So it doesn't need to be a huge time drain, which is often the fear for people.
That is such great advice, Kay, because I was going to come on to that topic of like video recording tools that generate the PDFs that then are going into it that way as well. So I started off using Loom. And I don't know if you use Loom just now as well. I love how they moved their name from Loom to Use Loom, because everybody asks the question, do you use Loom? And so it totally works for their branding. So that was a good name. But I've moved away from Loom now, and I use another tool called Komodo.
Okay.
So Komodo. It does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But there are, as you said, lots of other tools that are out there. But the great thing I love about this tool is that if somebody asks me a question, I will literally record a quick video for them, push them out a link, and it gives them that guide, and it does an AI summary for them as well.
Yeah.
And it allows me to have like a database of things, video recordings that I can then push out to people if they need them. So if I'm thinking like, okay, I want to set up the systems for let's say setting up a digital Dominator session, I can just use that video recording tool on the browser, record it. It will generate those instructions with the video, with the guide, with the image, and the click step by step. And it's almost that then that I can add into my HQ, right?
Yeah, so within ClickUp, you can create templates. So you would create a template for your SOPs. And obviously, as soon as you are generating a new one, it would automatically apply the template. And you would then just become clear as to what you needed to pull in to which sections, etc. once you've decided on what tool you're going to use to create the recordings or the step-by-steps.
That sounds like it would take just a little bit longer to do when you're doing that setup process, just maybe a little bit longer than you would normally do if you've got this kind of video recording, but actually to then hand over that piece of work to somebody else to do. You're at that great stage where you can start to employ, and then you go, actually, I can get an administrator on to help me with that. And you've just handed over that step-by-step process. Oh my good, that'd be so quick. And when I chat with business owners as well that have got staff that need upskilling, that's what a lot of people come to technology coaching for, because we build in those essential skills into our digital skills training. It's about how do we communicate and how do we talk about the things that we're doing as part of our job. And so by having an SOP really, or that kind of HQ, do you find that helps communication amongst the team members? Do you feel it helps to streamline how they're working efficiently together?
Absolutely. So when you are outsourcing or bringing people in to support you, one of the biggest reasons that these relationships fail is because of a lack of clarity. The person didn't have the clarity as to what your expectations were for that piece of work or that role. And by building in these processes and these SOPs, you're taking away that major lack of clarity, and that person has no lack of understanding as to what your expectations are. But it then also does become, so one section is your SOPs, the next section of your digital HQ is your day-to-day operation. So you can then have that as a communication tool as well. And rather than it being lost in a trail of WhatsApp messages or email messages, it's specifically on the piece of work that it's in relation to. So it becomes much easier to keep track of what a person's done as well. And it just lets that communication be a lot clearer. It cuts out a lot of back and forward communication because the clarity's there. Someone can update and say, I've now done stage 1, 2, and 3 of this piece of work. It's over to you for the next stage, as an example.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So I can envision that as being like, let's say there's 2 members working on a piece of task, that they're seeing their steps step by step. This person's got to this point. This person can then follow on for the tasks. And then it's a rinse and repeat almost for the next time that process has to then take place. It's so much easier. Everyone's on the same page. Yeah, that must just bring that kind of joy side of it from the overwhelm to that they've experienced prior to it. It must feel like momentum as well for business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, once you've got the basics in the tool, you can then start to look at the smarter elements of it. So ClickUp as an example, you've got all your knowledge in there, all your information, your SOPs, your day-to-day running, and then you start adding in the automations. Then you start telling ClickUp to assign it to a specific person when it gets to a specific stage. You tell ClickUp to give it 3 days before it's due once it's moved to that particular stage. There's lots of different rules and automations that you can tell the tool to do once you've got that knowledge and information in there.
And that can be done repetitively as well then?
Yeah.
Great, especially if it can do, because you'll know this as well with the amount of businesses that you've worked with, it is within a team sometimes that this person looks after this bit, this person looks after this part. then it moves on to this person, and nobody can move on to the next thing until they've completed
Yeah.
the next task. And so sometimes that is a email thread going back and forth. Sometimes that's a CC in of a manager to be able to go, can you push this person to be able to do that task for me? Because I can't do it until they've done it. Or it could be a little DM that goes out to them via your online internal communication systems. Even when it comes to small business owners working with other partners on a project as well, I can imagine having like a partner HQ almost for your project that you've got.
Yeah.
Working that way as well, okay? If you're looking at external, different people from different companies working together on a project.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's got in ClickUp, if we use that as the example still, they talk about spaces. So if you imagine your digital HQ would have a space for each relevant area of your business, essentially. So your kind of day-to-day, your marketing, however you decide to set it up. And then, as you say, if you've got a sort of specific one-off project, that could be another space. You can invite the relevant people into that space to collaborate with you on that, assign them tasks, share your documents, record instructional videos, whatever it may be. ClickUp actually does have its own internal sort of Loom equivalent built in now. So
fantastic. So much easier. That's great.
Yeah, it just works really well. And as you say, it cuts out that email chain or the voicemails or the calls, and you maybe think, oh, that only took 30 seconds, but all those 30 seconds add up. And it distracts you from what you're doing, and then it takes you time to get back into flowing what you were doing, and it's just all that knock-on effect that eats into your time throughout the week.
I think this is so important for business owners that really charge for their time. So this is really, really prevalent for kind of that service-based business. Now, as being a service-based business, we've always used time tracking to be able to help us know effectively how long it takes to do things, to not only estimate how much that would cost somebody to then pay for that product or service. And then it also allows me, when I've got other people doing that role, to know how long it should actually take to be able to do that role as well. So does ClickUp include things that allow that kind of process of understanding that kind of time tracking or time management in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got, so you can create a task and open the task and start a timer, and then obviously complete the timer once you've stopped working on whatever the piece of work is. You can have a sort of team view. So from a capacity planning point of view, you could say, okay, Suze works 20 hours a week, and the amount of tasks that she's got assigned to her for this week equates to 15 hours worth of work. So I know she's got 5 hours of scope that I could potentially give her other projects. So from that holistic sort of team capacity point of view as well, it works really well to give you, as you said, that understanding how long things are estimated to take and actually take, and how that then feeds into the time that a person actually has.
So I think even as a solopreneur, that individual that's working with a client basis, whether that be a product or a service-based business, having that overview of like, actually with this client, I'll be taking this amount of time to do something with. I've got 4 requests coming in. How can I structure that and schedule them or go back to them? Does that, have you seen examples of that, Kay?
Yeah. Again, there's, like, from that capacity point of view, there is the view, you can view across a week view, if you like. So you know that your time, you've had these 4 requests come in and you've got time on Tuesday, so that's okay, you can slot them in there. It does give you warnings if you've said you're only working 20 hours this week, but the work you've put in equates to 25. It would say, hang on a minute, that's something's not quite working here. And it just lets you have, again, that clarity. Is there something that can move? Is there something that you need to change? Like, how does that work, and how can you work that in the best way for you?
That's fantastic, because I know that in my head, I would go, yeah, I've probably got about 5 hours there. And if I work maybe an extra 2 hours, I'd get that over the line. So I'll just get it done. But if your goal as an individual is to also have, like, in this example, maybe it's to make sure that you're going to the gym 4 times a week, right?
Yeah.
So even though having in an extra bit of work, but is that taken away from another goal? But this whole holistic approach will allow you to kind of make better decisions, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what it all stems from. You can make the best decisions when you have that knowledge and that clarity, and you're not relying on 4 different folders or 3 different inboxes or a lot of different places to try and find that information. When you've got that one place that you can go for everything that you're reliant on. I mean, it even starts building in your personal information. So when's your car MOT due? When is your insurance renewals due? It just takes all of that thinking process away for you, and it just makes life so much easier, not just business.
It sounds like I need to spend a bit of time setting this up, Kay, to be able to have like almost a automatic personal assistant for me, really, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Does it use any AI tools? Would you recommend implementing any sort of AI into systems and processes?
So ClickUp does have its own AI built in. It is still in the beta stages, but obviously it's like everything, it's developing constantly. So it does, it can search, basically, you can see when was the marketing SOP last updated, and it would tell you. It's like the ClickUp brain, they talk about it. So it basically knows everything about what's going on in your ClickUp, but can also then trigger other automations and other sort of smart prompts for you.
I know that the tools are constantly evolving and updating, so it doesn't matter what time that you're watching this back, that it will be different from what we've talked about. Because even just before this call, Kay, when we were going through the setup process, I'm like, it's changed 2 weeks ago from when I've set this up previously. So we know that the tools are constantly evolving as they meet those kind of customer needs as well.
Absolutely.
So just going to go into kind of 3 actionable steps that you think a business owner can take today to start to improve their systems. So what do you think, Kay?
3 actionable steps. I would say, number 1, I would say track your time. It sounds really, really basic, but again, it's coming back to that knowledge and that understanding and that ability to make better decisions. And it leads into reducing the overwhelm, because if you're planning something for 30 minutes that actually takes you 2 hours, then you've set yourself up for failure straight away. So you want to be giving yourself the best chance of success, and you can only do that with the clarity and the ability to make the right decisions.
Okay.
With that, your systems become easier to manage because you've got the time to properly focus on it. I would say number 2 is a regular review. So a system is not something that you set up today and that's it, done forever. It's a live working document that moves with you and your business, and it will always change, and you've got to make sure it's going with you. The tools you use will change, the way you speak to people will change, your messaging will change, everything changes as you grow and develop, and you've got to make sure the systems are going along with that and matching that. And number 3, I would say, is start small, but get started. The digital HQ will bring you endless benefits if you embrace it and get on board with it. And it doesn't have to be this huge, time draining, stressful event. It can be something that you build up over time and start. Obviously, the longer it takes you to build up, the longer it takes you to get the full benefit, but you'll still start getting benefits as soon as you start building it.
I think they were really clear. Start time tracking is your first one.
Yeah.
What was the headline of the second one?
It was regular reviews.
Regular reviews.
Systems have to be live and move with you.
And then Start Now really is part of it.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of tools out there for time tracking to get started with. Toggle Track is a free one to get started with. I've always had on Chrome, because I use Chrome, they've got like web time tools as well.
Yeah.
It's been really helpful for me when I've had staff members on as well, if I wanted to understand how they're spending their time on the tools that they're using for their job. This is built into their Chrome Google account. So then I can see a report on, actually, are they spending 3 hours on Facebook or are they actually using the tools that are there as well? This is really important for remote working as well. If you have a business owner are paying for people to do work for you, you want to make sure that they're doing the work as well. So there are other tools out there that will help you with that time tracking piece as well. And I love the fact that you mentioned it about a continual journey, because we're always updating our processes and we're always trying to find a new way or a better way to do something. So I suppose it's the diligence to make sure that you update your HQ as you go along.
Yeah, and it just, again, it gives you better knowledge. If you're building in the changes with a sort of explanation, if you like, of that journey, of why you're changing, then it gives you that point to return to as well. If you get 3 months down the line and decide something hasn't actually worked out that well, you've got that place to go back to. You understand why you changed it, what you were trying to achieve, and you know what small tweaks you could potentially make to make it work better or to make it look differently or whatever it may be. It's just always about building that knowledge and making sure you've got the clarity on why you made your decisions and why you're doing what you're doing.
I suppose that must help as well within that kind of team environment too. So I know that a lot of challenges that the team leaders have is really understanding what their people are doing, but also that the team as a whole understands what each other are doing. And that seems to be lacking in a lot of teams because they don't have the communication. They are remote from each other. So by having an HQ that's got everybody doing what they're being tasked to do, the leader of sorts is able to get a full representation of what that looks like. But it must help. Let's say there's Joe and Joanne, right? And Joe is going, Joanne takes ages to do this. Why does that take so long? And Joanne goes like, but John takes hardly any time to do this. Why is that the case, right? They don't understand because they're not able to talk to each other. Maybe it's not that environment. But having a system like that, where people are getting an idea of what each other's roles are as well, I can only assume that benefits the team as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes your business playbook, business handbook, if you like, as well. So rather than in days gone by when you were maybe handed a huge pile that you were expected to read through that nobody ever did, it's that live environment again. People can see the videos, they can see the flows mapped out, they can understand why different things link to different departments or different pieces of work, and it gives you that better understanding, as you say, like, why is that piece of work taking that long? All right, because they need to interact with these 5 different areas, or they need to wait on a subcontractor coming back to them, or whatever it may be. It's just really enhancing that overall knowledge of the business.
That's what I'm thinking. Oh, I don't know where they're coming from there. I don't know if somebody's muted. I'm just going to make sure that we're both muted. Yep, we're okay. I think that's okay now. Sorry. I was working on a project. I was a subcontractor of one of the other contractors, where there were 6 other contractors. So there were 7 contractors in total on one project.
Yeah.
And I was a subcontractor of one of those. Now, trying to get information to that one contractor, me, and then those 6 other businesses, us all trying to share assets across different business systems, trying to set up even meetings, keeping the emails back and forth to who you're speaking to. the policies in place wouldn't allow us to have like a separate system that we could all manage in that way as well.
Okay.
And the things that we were creating were to go out into schools, which again have their own internal, each school has their own internal system and setup as well. That has been my biggest ever challenge of a project of working, was the setup, lack of systems and processes that were put in place because of the hierarchies of these kind of 7 consultancies trying to work together, and me as a subcontractor of another consultancy, it was even harder. I work within systems and processes individually, and as a business owner I do that, but not everybody does, right? And not everybody, some people just like to turn up to work and do their job and then go home and don't think about the bigger picture as part of that. What would you say to somebody that's presented with a problem of dealing with multiple people, multiple projects, think of that like lots of different systems? How would you get started? What's the first place? Is it talking to you? Is it, what is the first place to get started with a project that's so big you don't know where to start?
I would say, yes, it is always useful to talk to someone else. That external view and ability to see things and barriers that you may not see because you're so close to it is always useful. So I would definitely recommend that as a starting point. And then I would look at those barriers. Do they really need to be there? Really question if they really need to be there. What is the cost of adapting those policies or changing those policies to make this project run more smoothly, and to cut out so much of that time that's going to be spent trying to knock down these doors almost. So I would really definitely encourage some challenge and some questioning around why things are in place and why things are done the way they're done. Just because they have always been done that way doesn't mean they still need to be.
Yeah, that's so good, because that for me was my biggest challenge, trying to find where that decision had been made, as an example, that was made maybe a year before, but we're now taking action on it a year later, because sometimes it just takes that amount of time within corporates to get things over the line. And trying to find that email, and then maybe that person's left as well. It just becomes a huge challenge to try and manage that. So I would definitely speak to yourself, Kay, next time if something like that comes into play, and going, how do I best approach something like this as well?
Absolutely.
So just on that point there, what I'm going to just pull up just now is that Kay's so graciously got an offer for anybody that is not only on this session live, but is watching this at a later date. And I've just popped this on the screen just now as well. So it's a real efficiency toolkit. So talk to me about what that is, Kay.
So it's just a really sort of straightforward, easy to use guide for you to work through and start thinking differently about what systems you do have in place, what's your starting point right now, what can you look at to move that forward and change that, and how you can start thinking about things a bit differently, because sometimes we do need to embrace that change and see the benefits at the other side.
I don't think people would know what they are unless they come and speak to you, Kay, and they come and look at this toolkit, because it does kind of sometimes go, God, it seems like a big job, but you've really explained you just need to get started. You just really need to just start writing down the list of the tools it is that you're using. But I think this toolkit would be the easy to take that away, even those challenges as part of it. So anyone that's listening on just now, anyone that's listening later, just click on that link. It'll be around this video as well. And then just sign up to Kay's efficiency toolkit. Now, what's the next stage after that, Kay, of how people can work with you?
So they can book an efficiency hour. It starts as a quick 1 hour clarity call, really working through a specific problem for you, or a specific part of your business that you're looking to make more efficient, and we would come up with quick and simple ways for you to tackle that. Or at the other end, there is a 3-month support package that I offer, where I would come in and do all the setup that we've spoke about today, and that team training, team embedding, making sure that you and any team that you do have are fully embedded and working with the tools in the best possible way.
That is so important as well, especially for any change and any people that are resistant to change, which are usually the team members, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
Having your guidance and support and really helping people point them in the right direction. That hand holding almost really, really makes a huge difference for any change in their business. And with your 20 years experience, Kay, I can imagine it being really smooth process for the companies that are working with you too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, is there any last thing that you want to share with anybody, with everyone that's here and watching later before we finish up today, Kay?
It's just that reminder again, just get started. It's not scary. It doesn't need to be difficult, and it doesn't need to take you huge extra amounts of time. It's a lot of what you are doing already, but it then lets you see it in a different way so that you can start to bring in that extra efficiency.
Okay, fantastic, Kay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on how to boost your business with efficient systems. And I'll say goodbye to Kay. Thanks so much. You can connect with her on her socials. Where's the best place to get you, Kay?
So I am on LinkedIn as Kay Dewar.
Okay, fantastic. So get Kay on LinkedIn as Kay Dewar, and I'll share her socials as well underneath if you're watching this later. And join us next time for our next Digital Dominator session. And I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Thanks. Bye.